Welcome to the Herd's official YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Colin Cowherd podcast, all of our NFL instant reactions, and more football content.
The Ben Johnson Bears, the Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, Chicago Bears are really interesting. And we're all kind of watching it. Whether it hits or fails, I think it's going to hit. But it is interesting. Ben Johnson, when he was in Detroit, was with Jared Goff. And this morning, we went and looked at Ben Johnson's first 6 games with Caleb Williams and his first 6 games with Jared Goff. And you know what you see? Identical numbers. Caleb just wins more. So 3 things are very clear. There's clearly progress with Caleb Williams and the Bears offense this year to last. And it also proves most of you weren't watching Jared Goff and the 2022 Lions. By the way, that Lions team, they had Amon-Ra St. Brown, O-line, PFF had it top 10. They had Penei Sewell. They had 2 good running backs, including DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams. It was a good team. They had a lot of good players. And they weren't very good. And nobody was watching that team. And everybody's watching this team. The only time you watch that Lions team, last game of the year, when they went to Lambeau and beat Aaron Rodgers and knocked Green Bay out of the playoffs. And that was Aaron's last game as a Packer. That's when you first watched them. The difference is the Bears, we've been watching it since June. That's when we've been watching this Bears team. So I think, and here's the thing is that Caleb Williams was under a microscope. His first start at Oklahoma, I think he replaced Spencer Rattler. So, I mean, it was like, oh, first start Oklahoma, then at USC, then last year, then this year. Jared Goff, you didn't watch him in Detroit until that game in Green Bay. And so here are facts about Caleb Williams and the Bears and Ben Johnson through 6 games. These are facts. Looked it up this morning. He is taking far fewer sacks. That was my number one concern. Not yards, not touchdowns. He's taken fewer sacks. He has a higher passer rating, and the Bears lead the NFL in big plays per game. It is working. It is absolutely working. It's a little rough. The operational side of it's a little clunky about twice a game, but Greg Olsen came on this show earlier and said, it's fine right now.
Franchises fail young quarterbacks more than young quarterbacks fail franchises. And I think you're seeing it with what Kevin O'Connell is doing with some of these rebirth of Sam Darnold, who now continued it in Seattle. And, you know, you're seeing what goes on with so many of these quarterbacks that were left for dead. Fit is such an important part of all of this. And then you factor in just how young Caleb is and how fresh he is in his NFL career. I think there's been great growth.
Absolutely. We're just watching this. And we didn't watch the Lions until the following year when we all went, oh, yeah. Like most of us were watching Stafford to the Rams way more than Goff to the Lions until that Packer game. And then the following year they came out and you're like, is Detroit good? What? Difference is we're just watching every snap Caleb takes. Less sacks, higher passer rating, lead the NFL in big plays. Can be a little clunky, but it's good. There's no question. I'll say this. It's going to work. It's just how unrealistic are the critics. This week, Ravens, that is a test, and I believe Lamar will play. Okay, so I saw a headline today. Aaron Rodgers is a different kind of leader. One the Steelers needed. Oh, baloney. He's competent. That's all this offense is about. Aaron's competent. Go back to Big Ben, 2020, 2021. Do you remember those teams? They couldn't run the ball, and I remember a lot of punts. Then they pivoted to Kenny Pickett, 22 and 23. They couldn't pass the ball, and I remember a lot of punts. And then they pivoted to Justin Fields and Russell Wilson last year, and they couldn't do anything, and they were atrocious in the red zone. This team is good in the red zone, better, and they're pretty good on third down, and they run it a little better, and they don't throw it down the field a ton, but they're just competent. This is not about leadership. It's about a grown-up who's been around. Aaron moves better than people give him credit for. He's doing a good job of using the size of his top 4 targets, and that's what this really is. His passer rating right now, 105, is the highest for any Steeler quarterback ever. So old Big Ben, it was ugly. They couldn't run. And then Kenny Pickett, that was ugly. They couldn't pass. Last year, they couldn't do anything. In fact, the two quarterbacks they let go of from last year are 0-9 this year. And Mike Tomlin won 10 games with the guys last year. So Mike Tomlin just needed competency. It's not about leadership. Aaron makes good decisions. He still moves okay. He really does. He's not Drake Maye or he's not Bo Nix. He moves fine. And he's competent, and he loves football, and he talks football, and Mike Tomlin addresses that.
He loves it. It's who he is. He loves the process. He loves to talk ball. He loves to educate his teammates to get on the same page. He doesn't tire in terms of seeking resolution to issues. It's just a lot of good things about him other than obviously his physical talents and skills that have been really impressive. And again, as I mentioned, not that I'm shocked by it, but it's still highly appreciated.
The only thing I worry about, I mean, Aaron Rodgers at this point is precious cargo. Like when he makes a great play, please, if you're a 340-pound lineman, Broderick Jones, please don't rush over and tackle Aaron Rodgers. I know it's like one of those packages you send and you put the ribbon around it like fragile. Aaron talked about that.
The only tackle I had the other night was Broderick, so other than that, I'm feeling pretty good. Rod is always the first one to come find me after a play. It could be like the first big pass down to DK on third down. He's coming and dapping me up. And what you don't see in the video is right after the throw, he's coming over to me and shaking me. And like I text him, I say, hey, man, I love your energy. I love everything you're about. But also, I'm 41, okay? You can't be out there tackling me.
Yeah, he's a bit precious cargo. I actually love the Steelers in this spot this weekend. This is one of my favorite numbers. It's come down. And the reason I like it is because Mike Tomlin, as an underdog at home, chip on his shoulder. Aaron, he wants to play well against the Packers. And Green Bay's playing with their food. They haven't been overly impressive, even though the Colts and the Packers are the only teams with only one loss. So it's a great spot. I think it's one of the real entertaining games of the week. I think the two games I really want to watch, I think this game's interesting. I think if Lamar Jackson plays, we can look at the schedule. I think if Lamar Jackson plays, that game with the Bears is really, really interesting. And I'll say this, I think the Giants at Philadelphia is interesting. The Giants are real. What you're seeing with the Giants is not a mirage. Sometimes in September, when the weather's good, teams look real glossy and speedy and quick and fun. Miami Dolphins do that. But then October, November, December, it gets cold. You have to run the football. You need pass protection. Your quarterback needs to have a stronger arm, and they kind of regress. I think the New York Giants are real, and I think they'll give Philadelphia a real game. I think Jackson Dart has been surprising. It is not a great schedule this weekend. There are a lot of quarterbacks hurt, but I just read this from Jeff Zrebiek. He's a reporter. Lamar Jackson is practicing second straight day, seemed to be working at a similar rate as of yesterday. So I think that the Chicago Bears have won 4 straight, J-Mac, and they've been beating kind of the dregs of the NFL. This would be an impressive win. Baltimore's getting healthy. I will say this, and we talked about it earlier. Because there's a microscope on Caleb Williams, if you look at his first 6 games with Ben Johnson and Jared Goff in Detroit's first 6 games, and Detroit had Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra St. Brown and a very good O-line, it's the same. The difference is we didn't watch Goff early. We're watching Caleb. I think it's a really good game. I think the number's inflated. Do you think with a healthy Ravens team, and the one thing they have that Chicago is 4-2. Of course they want to win. Right. Baltimore feels like they have to win the next 5 games they play. That's why I like the Ravens here.
Yeah, I'm with you. It seems like the Bears are getting not only just lucky, but the turnovers are breaking their way. They have like 13 turnovers, plus 13 in the last 4 games. Like, come on. And the quarterbacks they face, Spencer Rattler, Jaden Daniels in the rain, the immortal Geno Smith, and then Dak Prescott in the game. CeeDee Lamb went down. Yeah. And if you remember, they had like 2 or 3 turnovers, I believe, in the red zone in that game. the Cowboys did. So I'm with you. I like the Ravens. Colin, you're making me nervous here, man. You're on a heater and you don't like the games. I mean, if you're not seeing stuff you like this weekend, what are the rest of us going to do? And I'm not with you on Pittsburgh, though. I don't see what you're seeing there, besides the Mike Tomlin as an underdog at home.
Yeah, I will say this about Caleb Williams is he has been under such a microscope. When he replaced Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma, I remember the game. And you're like, oh, my God, this kid is really special. And then he goes to USC, and he puts up huge numbers. Then he goes to Chicago, and I think he's getting better. I think it doesn't always look pretty. And I tend to watch quarterbacks and coaches, their body language. Ben Johnson clearly gets frustrated with him. But Caleb this week talked about Ben and their relationship.
There are things that I can be better at. There are things that I'm going to be better at. There are things that, weren't hitting today. And you just have those days sometime. And it's nice that we have a defense, we have a special teams, a punter, or whatever you want to say, kicker, that can put us ahead, that can help us win games, a run game that can, control the game. And so, we get this figured out on my side. We'll be putting up a lot of points to be very dangerous.
All right, today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. They're a great partner. On Hard Rock Bet, you don't have to wait for week 8 to kick off to get in on the action. There's always something to bet on. If you haven't tried your first bet on Hard Rock Bet yet, there's still time for you to get $150 in bonus bets. If you win, just place a $5 bet. That's it, $5. If it hits, you not only get your winnings, but you get $150 in extra bonus bets. The NBA is back, which means it's time to shoot your shot on Hard Rock Bet. You're home for all the hoops action all season long. If you need a little help with your first bet, check out the streaks heating up inside the Hard Rock Bet Stats Hub. You can find live odds to bet on all of these streaks right in the Hard Rock Bet app. Download the Hard Rock Bet app today and make your first deposit.
And with that, 46 years, NFL Films. It is a Thursday at second hour. It's Greg Cosell. I want to go immediately because the game that I thought was so compelling was Bo Nix against Jackson Dart, Denver getting behind, roaring back. And I have been a Bo Nix fan. I don't think right now he's a great deep ball thrower, and I do think between Cortland Sutton and Mims, they have deep ball targets. So he's been trailing a lot. It's been ugly. It's been clunky. How do you view Bo Nix watching that game against the Giants?
I think, quite frankly, Colin, this has been an up and down season for Nix. It's been very uneven. Now, there are times I watch their pass game, and I think this is a very condensed pass game. I feel like there's not a lot to it, which is surprising to say, given it's Sean Payton. Now, again, he knows his quarterback better than you and I do. But I just feel like we're not seeing Nix the same way we saw him last year, because I remember one of the things that really stood out to me a year ago was his ability to make throws between the numbers at the intermediate levels with a lot of juice. And we're not seeing very much of that this year at all. And a lot of the good plays he's making later in games, we saw it against the Eagles. We saw it last week against the Giants. He's throwing fade balls to good receivers where Sutton makes plays. Mims made a play in the game against the Giants. But we're just not seeing the same kinds of throws that we saw a year ago. I don't have an explanation for that other than they're not there on the tape right now.
Jackson Dart's playing with a ton of confidence. What are you seeing there that you like or don't?
Yeah, I think that staff's doing a really good job, particularly on first down. You know, first down is always the best down to throw on because you're more likely to get more predictable coverages, more predictable looks. I think they're doing a really good job with him, defining that for him, because he does tend to be a little frenetic and chaotic. He tends to move. The play we just saw was obviously a coverage breakdown, but his legs are a big, big factor. The concern you have with him is I think he's been in the blue 10 in every game he started,
right.
And he's going to have to learn. He's going to have to learn that it's very difficult to play this way all the time in the NFL. But I think he has good traits. I'm curious to see as he develops. I mean, just think of someone like Drake Maye. Now, he doesn't throw it as well as Drake Maye does, but someone like Drake Maye, look how comfortable he's gotten this year. And the fact that when he runs, it's calculated. It doesn't look frenetic, and he looks very comfortable in the pocket. Dart is by no means at that level, but he certainly hasn't played as much as Drake Maye has.
Let's talk Drake Maye. So he's on a bit of a heater right now, and we always liked his size and his mobility. Is there anything that you look at and go, wow, with Vrabel and Josh McDaniel, he is noticeably better at blank?
Well, I think one thing, and by the way, I've always been a big believer that when you have a young quarterback, you want an NFL coach coaching him that has a resume in the league. You don't want a young kid who doesn't have a resume, and obviously that's Josh McDaniels, and they're clearly doing a great job. But I think two things with Drake Maye have really stood out to me. Number one, and I didn't think this showed up on his college tape, I think his ball placement this year has been really good. And I think coming out of college, a lot of us had concerns that he was a little erratic with his ball location. It's been very, very good. The other thing that I think stands out on film this year about Drake Maye, and it's a trait that I think is essential for a quarterback, is pocket movement. Not scrambling, not running out of the pocket, Colin, but playing within the pocket. Let's say the size of smaller than a boxing ring, but where you move within, you step up, you slide right, you slide left, you climb. I think he's done that really, really well. And the trait that goes with that that's critical is keeping your eyes up. You don't drop your eyes and look at the rush. You feel pressure, you never see pressure.
Let's go to Mahomes, a veteran quarterback. I was talking to J-Mac earlier. I said, this receiving core, Worthy, Rice, Hollywood Brown, is a little twitchy. And I think Mahomes is smart enough to say a lot of these guys, it reminds me of the Niners about 3 years ago with Debo and Kittle and McCaffrey, just get the ball out, let them make people miss. I look at this thing and I watch Mahomes, and he seems very intentional. He wants to get that puppy out fast. That's what it looks like to me.
Well, it's funny you say that, because that's exactly what I've been thinking watching him the last number of weeks. And so very often what I do, Colin, is I watch tape and I see something and then I check a stat. I never start with the stats. I always want to start with the tape. And so I'm noticing as I watch tape that, boy, this offense looks really rhythmic, which it hasn't always, as you well know. We've discussed that over the years. And so I looked up from snap to throw. He's number one in the league in how quick it comes out.
Wow.
So what you see is correct, and what I saw on tape is correct. All of a sudden, this pass game is very rhythmic, and I think Rice will only help that, because Rice is not really a burner. Rice, in many ways, works the same area of the field as Kelsey. He kind of works between the numbers in the short to intermediate areas, and he gives Mahomes a quick place to deliver the football. And Patrick, in these last couple of weeks, has really played at a super efficient level. Maybe not the way we think of him, but at a super efficient level. And I guarantee Andy Reid is not bothered by that at all.
Speaking of Niners, I think Shanahan could be coach of the year. Totally resourceful. No Kittle. McCaffrey had 30 touches last week, or 31. They're waiting for Ayuk to come back. Debo's now a commander. Mac Jones actually sneaky moves once in a while, shows his mobility, but not as much as Purdy. When you look at their offense today, they've had to be very resourceful. I mean, Bosa, Warner, Hufanga, Greenlaw, they're doing the most of what they have. What is their offense right now in San Francisco? What do you see?
Well, I think they want it to be run first, which always is the way Kyle Shanahan starts. And I thought last week was a great example, because you have to beat your opponent every week. Obviously, you have an overriding philosophy. You've heard really good offensive coaches talk about that. I've heard Sean McVay talk about that. But then you also script that philosophy to your opponent. And last week against Atlanta, not a big front, they ran the ball inside, and it was their best running performance of the season. 65% of McCaffrey's runs were inside between the tackles. And do not discount the impact that George Kittle makes as a blocker. And not even on blocks where, let's say, he's play side, because what I noticed watching the film, Colin, even when he was a backside blocker, he can block defensive ends one-on-one. And you know what that allowed them to do? Double team on the inside and move people on the inside. And McCaffrey obviously had the big game. He had a ton of 10-plus yard runs. And also, he's got over 500 yards receiving already. So he's on pace for over 1,000 receiving yards.
Yeah. I want to talk about Dallas. We got into this discussion the other day. I said one of the advantages. sometimes, and maybe the Cowboys knew this, but one of the advantages of George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb is that I think it's actually helped their run game. You can't cheat as a safety because Pickens,
right.
CeeDee Lamb separates, a true number one. Pickens is more of a catching radius, yards after a very strong player. But when I watch them on the field, it does feel like, and this is not a great O-line. It's not Detroit or a Denver or the Colts. My take is Pickens, and I don't know if it was an intended or unintended benefit, Pickens and CeeDee Lamb actually helped the run game, because the shock of the season to me is this isn't a great O-line. This isn't even the Bears' interior O-line. Dallas is running the ball better. Why?
Really well. Well, I think it's the way you can deploy Pickens and Lamb, because Pickens is a true what we call boundary X. He's the single receiver to the short side of the field, and you just saw how important that is. Just think back to last week at the end of the first half, okay? They gained 77 yards on 2 plays at the end of the first half. There's the first one, okay? And that was where he was the boundary X, and you throw it up to him on a fade ball, and he beats Lattimore. Now, what this allows Lamb to do in the context of this offense is Lamb now is the movement receiver. You can line him up anywhere. You put him in motion. He gets free access. He can run multiple route concepts from multiple splits. So you have 2 receivers now who are really, really good at what they do. And Dak's playing at a really high level. We just saw the Lamb touchdown, which was an unbelievable play, by the way, because that ball on that particular route concept never goes to that receiver, but the defense dictated it as such. And the one thing I've really noticed on film, Colin, and this blew me away, play action. So I looked up the numbers. You know what Prescott's numbers are on play action this year? It's going to blow you away. He's 60 for 71 on play action, which is close to 85%, with 7 touchdowns on play action out of 71 throws and no interceptions. So their play action pass game is just off the charts.
A quarterback that is struggling, but I thought the Colts were a better team last week. Justin Herbert has lost 3 of 4, and I know Harbaugh can coach, and I know Justin's good. You know, my take is I can't judge him right now. I do think they'll turn it around when they get everybody back, but they don't have a run game. I mean, what are you seeing? I feel literally bad for Herbert.
Yeah, there's a disconnect there in my view. And again, I never rip coaches. They know their players better than I do. But you're dealing with a poor offensive line, certainly at the tackle position. And I'm sure Alt will be back, if not tonight, certainly next week. But you're dealing with a poor O-line, and Herbert has thrown more passes than any quarterback in the league. That's a disconnect. So it's very, very difficult to play that way with a poor O-line, poor pass protection, and a quarterback that has too many dropbacks. Now, last week they got behind 23-3 at the half, and obviously they came out in the second half and felt that they had to throw. But even before Joe Alt got hurt, this offense did not look, I think, what we expected it to look like. There's been too many dropbacks. And even with Alt there, it's still not a great O-line. So they may feel they don't have a running back now that Omarion Hampton is out. They may feel they don't have a bellwether running back, and this is the best way they can play. As I said, they know their players better than I, but I just think you can't ask Justin Herbert to drop back this many times behind that offensive line. It's just bad things are going to happen.
So Mike Tomlin was upset when the Bengals acquired Joe Flacco from Cleveland, and now we know why. Flacco has a history on short rest of beating Tomlin. We've talked about old Brady and old Aaron and old Stafford.
Sure.
But I watch old Joe Flacco, and that's a guy that is uncomfortable. He gets the playbook after about 3 practices. I mean, what did you say? I find him fun and easy to watch.
Oh, I love Joe. He's from South Jersey, so I know him. I know his family. He's just a guy that, you know, it's funny. I had a chance to really spend time with him a number of years ago here at NFL Films, and he looks at the position. I don't want to say like it's easy, but he doesn't overcomplicate it. And that's one reason you always see him throw to the 101s. You know, to him, it's the NFL. If it's 101, you throw it. You know, you talk to him, and it's like, well, if the safety does that, well, then I'm going to throw it over there. If the safety does something else, I'll throw it somewhere else. And he's always very sort of simplistic in how he sees things, and he will always throw the 101s, and he will always throw the ball between the numbers, which are really difficult throws. We know every once in a while he makes a throw that you go, Joe, why'd you make that throw? But that's because he's always so aggressive.
Greg Cosell, 46 years, NFL Films. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it.
I saw this morning. Nick Saban apparently this weekend was defending James Franklin. And he went out and he said, it's unfair what they're doing to Billy Napier, and it's unfair what they're doing to James Franklin. I wouldn't have fired James Franklin either because he won 13 games last year. But in any business, the bigger that business gets, including college football, the more pressure and the more pressure to win quickly. And everybody keeps telling me, well, the players are making big money now. That's made it harder. Well, the coaches are also making $9, $10, $11 million a year. Win more games faster. I wouldn't have fired James Franklin, but he did go 4-21 against top 10 teams and a 1-15 against top 5 teams. You got to win more of those games. Billy Napier, it was time. Billy Napier lost to South Florida. If you're at the University of Florida, you can't lose to directional schools in Florida. He was also a guy, had a worse record. He's in year 4 than Dan Mullen, who got whacked. So again, I hear about, the players making money. Do you know what the average player in college football makes? Less than $10,000. The coaches are making that by lunch on Monday. Okay, coaches are making $10 million and $11 million. Beat good teams. If you coach Penn State, you can't go 4-21 against top 10 teams. You got to be closer to 500. I'm not saying you have to do a Saban or a Pete Carroll at LSU, but you can't go 4-21. Can't go 1-15 against top 10 teams. So the bigger the money, the bigger the expectations. More is more. You get more money. Players get more money. There's more pressure. You got to win more games. More is more. And with that, Chris Sims is joining us, former Texas Longhorn quarterback, 8 years in the NFL. I mean, I look at Texas and Sark. I think he's safe. I think he's a great coach. But you know that school. Arch has struggled. Do you think Sark's feeling heat at Texas?
Well, he's feeling heat because of the expectations. I mean, they were the number 1 team in the country. They spent a lot of money on NIL to emphasize that. And of course, they have a quarterback that everybody thought was going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, right? So he's feeling the heat just because, hey, that's a major program and it's the biggest thing in the city of Austin. And it's almost like an NFL team as far as the attention it gets from a big city. But I don't think he has to worry about like feeling the heat as far as job security. That I don't think. No, not at all.
Okay, USC, 4 years in. Offense is snazzy and fun. Defense isn't physical consistently. Can't win road games in the Big Ten. Do you think there should be heat on Lincoln Riley today?
Oh, 100%. I never really understood that marriage there. Lincoln Riley does not seem like a Southern Cal, Los Angeles type of guy. I do believe that helps in a college football setting a little bit. So yeah, I don't. And then of course, like to your point, I mean, yes, it's fun. Wow, great passing yards. But what's that mean? It doesn't mean anything. They're not capable of playing, like you said, Big Ten football. Defense is a little bit better this year, but certainly nothing special, right? And yet I've seen nothing or no inkling so far to go, ooh, watch out. They got a ton of talent coming up the pipes here. I know the recruiting class next year is supposed to be pretty good, but come on, it's USC. You know, Colin, forever, if there was 10 good players in the state of California, you were like, well, the top 9 are going to USC. If there was 15 on the West Coast, you were like, well, 13 of them are going to the USC. That's not happening. So that would concern me.
Ohio State, I've watched every game, almost every game they've played, and my takeaway is that defense is too good for 99% of college offenses. I don't know what they'll do to Indiana. It's just too fast. The windows you're allowed to throw in against them are NFL windows. They're tiny little windows. What do you see?
I see that. I think Ohio State's the best team in college football. I don't really think it's close, all right, because of what you said, the talent, right? Matt Patricia has brought that defense to a different stratosphere with some NFL concepts and things where I think a lot of college football is like, whoa, what the hell is this coverage? I don't know what to do. I think that's part of Texas's problem. I think that this defense put out a few ways of how to defend that offense, and people have copied that a little bit. But yes, between that and Colin, here's the other aspect. We know the offense is awesome. The quarterback, the receivers, the running back, all of that. Their running game is legit. They haven't even had to be creative in a game yet. They're literally like, we're going to run here. And then they run here. They're like, Jeremiah's here. He's going to be open. We're going to throw it to him. So I don't think they've even had to like dive deep into the playbook as far as creativity to this point yet.
Finally, you know quarterback. Who is the best college quarterback you've seen? Now, this past week against SC, Carr didn't play well. Who have you seen? Is it a Nussmeier, a Dante Moore? Is it Mendoza? Who do you like?
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there. Mendoza certainly catches my eye. Dante Moore, to me, looks like, I don't know if it's ready for him to come out this year, but he certainly has top 10 type of talent to me in the draft. Same with Fernando Mendoza. Jaden Mayaba of USC is really talented. The best quarterback, though, I've seen this year is Ty Simpson of Alabama. When I talk about big throws, pushing the ball down the field, throwing the ball into tight windows, all that, I'm going to give him the belt right now. But there is a lot of good college football players. I like Nussmeier, Colin, but he has not looked the same as last year. And I've heard and I know he's kind of battling through some injuries. I think he's got a little oblique issue there altogether. But for my money right now, it would be Ty Simpson.
Yep. Kalen DeBoer did it with Michael Penix after those injuries.
Right.
There's no question the coach always helps with a quarterback. It could be Bo Nix or Sean Payton, Kalen DeBoer and Ty Simpson. Chris Sims on a rush day for us because of a little story that broke between the FBI and the NBA. Chris, as always, it's great seeing you.
Good seeing you, buddy. Have a good one. Enjoy the weekend. All right, man?
All right. Saw his dad a couple of weeks ago on the show. Chris Sims today.